Good afternoon. My name is Gerald Kai, and this is my presentation on exploring leadership. I'll go over the conceptual model that I created, Gill's 6 competencies, how those competencies help inform what I call the intangibles. Then I will give a brief real-world example into leadership and what I felt effective leadership was and how it was performed in one of my high school coaches. And then I'll lastly close out with some of the conclusions from the presentation. So at the top of this conceptual model, we have the competencies of empowerment, engagement, vision, purpose, values, and strategies. And I think these competencies help one inform the intangibles, being self-reflective, influential, adaptive, collaborative, communicative, and accountable into this center of being growth-oriented and relationship-centered. So I think at the center of this model, this is what makes leaders effective, right? This idea of constantly looking to achieve growth as well as valuing the relationships that will help you get there. And flowing from this model, the outcome is just being transformative. Gill talks about that the best way to predict the future is to create it. It is the desired future that has to be aligned with the needs and expectations of stakeholders. So vision defines what or where an organization wants or needs to be. Purpose defines why the organization exists and what it does, as well as how the vision will be attained. And together, I think they form the foundation of leadership success. You can understand values as the process of identifying, promoting, and reinforcing values that support both the vision and purpose. So transformational leaders display a strong morality both in their pro-social orientation and in their behavior that reflects their values of empathy, care, concern, and respect. Fairholm, in his article Leadership and Organizational Strategy, suggests that organizational effectiveness can only be considered if you focus on both quantitative measures of success of actions properly linked to each other to achieve important goals, and the qualitative measures inherent in organizations' sense of values, purpose, meaning, and vision. So strategy, I see it as being the journey, right? The development, communication, and implementation of strategies that enable people to pursue this vision and purpose. Empowerment is providing people the knowledge, skills, tools, and resources to do what needs to be done. Empowered people have a sense of self-determination, meaning competence and impact. And I think by understanding the key priorities, understanding or helping people to understand their accountabilities will allow them to, one, deliver results as well as build and sustain trust over time. Engagement refers to engaging people to want to do what needs to be done. And inherent in this idea of engagement is one, collaboration, understanding that when we work together, when we're in environments and spaces that feel welcoming, where there's a shared mission, there's shared values, shared purpose, and this alignment allows us to be engaged in workforces or in workspaces. And I think as leaders, when we are intentional about this engagement, we can do better to foster this environment. A part of this growth oriented model is this idea of being self-reflective. And I think at its heart, what this means is adopting a learning attitude, being able to evaluate our experiences, our behaviors, our thought processes, and our actions are the baseline for being an effective leader. And flowing from that, I think we can begin to be influential, right? And I see influence as a way of being and doing that inspires others to, again, be and do. And I think when we can embody this idea, our beliefs, or embodying our beliefs through actions, followers will do the same. And lastly, I think being adaptive is the last piece to this being growth-oriented mindset. So one of the quotes that I pulled from the book is that, all things change. Nothing is extinguished. There's nothing in the world which is permanent. And I think when we have this ability to be flexible, we can have a growth-oriented approach, and that will help us maintain and build the relationship that we need to as leaders. Being relationship-centered, the first aspect is being collaborative. They say there's a proverb that says if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think this points to the nature of leadership, where when we're in teams, when we're working together, we can do more. One, not just because we can delegate tasks, but because we have an idea. And sometimes when we have a lot of ideas that might lead to a goal, more people can do it. And we, in turn, can get farther together. So great leaders recognize that there is power in collaboration and that by working together, great things can be accomplished. It's an opportunity to get to know the people who you work with, as well as understanding their own perspectives, motivations, goals, and values. Being communicative, right? Understanding that by effectively communicating with everyone about organizational mission, values, and strategies, there is a shared understanding and shared values that we have about what this looks like, what this means for each other, and how we can move forward. And lastly, I think being accountable, which is probably the hardest concept to tie down. How do we hold ourselves accountable? And I think the textbook definition really does a good job at this accountability piece, where being required to explain actions and decisions. And as a sum, we are able to be transformative. So Frederick Douglass Academy is a high school that I attended, and I played basketball there. And our coach, he had this model that A plus B equals CD, and this means that academics plus basketball equals college degree. And what was so transformative about this simple statement is that it was reflected all throughout the program. So the vision and the mission was to get inner city kids a college degree. And how would you do that? Through academics and basketball. And the strategies that were kind of laid out for us that, we would practice 6 days a week. We had study halls 5 days a week. We attended yearly college camps. We did college visits. We watched film together. We spent the summers working out on different tournaments, watching film together. And we even had like skill development days. But even embedded into this framework, we had to also be mindful of the importance of being communication and being accountable to each other. So if individuals were going to be late to practice and weren't going to show up, you have to call ahead. You have to let people know. And if you didn't, no call, no show, it would have led to being dismissed from the program. And I think just as a brief little snapshot into what a good leader was, he had an expectation for us and we had to live up to those expectations, but also we had to understand the importance of being being accountable to one another, being accountable to the team, being accountable to ourselves, and we had to understand how to communicate. And I think, looking back, it allowed me to realize how all these values are what made him a great leader in my eyes. So some conclusions, great leadership begins with how we approach our lives, how we think about what we do, why we do it, how we do it. We have to place a high value on developing and maintaining interpersonal relationships. We have to think that leadership is a combination of influence, communication, and commitment. And lastly, it requires acceptance of change. Thank you.